Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to discuss an article from Time magazine which actually tackles the concept that the media has been handling the GOP's rewriting of reality very poorly. I'm going to read you three passages. They're slightly lengthy, and I apologize, but I think they're really worth your time, so I'm going to read them in their entirety. I've written a lot about the GOP's defiance of reality. Its denial of climate science, the simultaneous denunciation of Medicare cuts and government health care, its insistence that debt-exploding tax cuts will somehow reduce the debt. So I often get accused of partisanship. But it's simply a fact that Republicans controlled Washington during the fiscally responsible era when President Clinton's budget surpluses were transformed into the trillion-dollar deficit that President Bush bequeathed to President Obama. The deficit is now shrinking. It's simply a fact that the fiscal cliff has created in response to GOP threats to force the U.S. government to default on its obligations. The press can't figure out how to weave these facts into the current narrative without sounding like it's taking sides, so it simply pretends that yesterday never happened. The next fight is likely to involve the $200 billion worth of stimulus that Obama included in his recycled Fiscal Cliff plan that somehow didn't exist before Election Day. I've taken a rather keen interest in the topic of stimulus, so I'll be interested to see how this is covered. Keynesian stimulus used to be uncontroversial in Washington. Even every 2008 presidential candidate had a stimulus plan, and Mitt Romney's was the largest. But in early 2009, when Obama began to push his $787 billion stimulus plan, the GOP began describing stimulus as an assault on free enterprise, even though House Republicans, including Paul Ryan, voted for a $715 billion stimulus plan alternative that was virtually indistinguishable from Obama's socialist version. The current Republican position seems to be that the fiscal cliff instant austerity would destroy the economy, which is odd after 4 years of Republicans clamoring for austerity, and that is the cliff's military spending cut would kill jobs, which is even odder after 4 years of Republicans' insistence that government spending can't create jobs. Whatever. I realize that GOP's up-is-downism puts news reporters in an awkward position. It would seem tendencious to point out that Republicans' hypocrisy on deficits and Medicare and stimulus every time it comes up, because these days it comes up almost every time a Republican leader opens his mouth. But we're not supposed to be stenographers. As long as the media let an entire political party invent a new reality every day, it will keep on doing it. Every day. Now, that's the big punch for me, that last passage about the media are not stenographers, and they're not. It is not their job to just write down whatever a politician says and then pass it on to the American people. We have live feeds of Congress. We can listen to what they say every day if we want. Now, a journalist's job is to take the information that they're given, research it, check to see if it's correct, and then give us a viewpoint different than the words that have been delivered from the person that gave them. That's what a journalist does. It isn't just repeating what someone says. It's giving us an insight that we would not have had otherwise. Now, I freely admit that I have a bit of an insider angle on this, as my wife has a degree in journalism and has worked on both daily and weekly newspapers and as a technical writer. So I understand how journalism works. I've been in an award ceremony where she got an award for her journalism. Okay? I'm familiar with this from the inside in a way that maybe your average American isn't. But a journalist that just writes things down and then hands them to the American people is a bad journalist. And if your spin is to support what they say, then you're a partisan hack. For example, faux news, sometimes referred to as Fox News. The media needs to report news, actual information, showing us things that we could not get just by listening or reading on our own, but viewpoints that we would not have had otherwise. And that's important. The media is often referred to as the fifth, the fourth estate, and that's also important. We need someone that keeps an eye on the other three. We need someone to make sure that the executive, judicial, and legislative branches are all doing their jobs. Because let's face it, you and I, we have jobs where we go every day, and the grind of working in the office or the factory or the store or the street or wherever the heck it is that you work means that we cannot consume everything we need to consume to make sure we watch our leaders the way we need to watch them. We need someone to help us. And that's where journalism comes into play. Except journalism, by and large, has done an incredibly crappy job of keeping an eye on the GOP. They lie every day. Now, I'm not going to say the Democrats don't lie. I'll never say that. But the GOP lies in a way that's aimed at hurting us, at undermining the very ideals this nation was founded on, about shoving all of our resources in the pockets of the 1% and leaving the rest of us out in the cold as serfs. And that's important to keep an eye on. So, I don't have a quick answer. I don't know if there is a quick answer. But we need to hold the journalism entire industry, the entire school of thought, the entire practice, hold their feet to the fire. Make sure that they do their job and that they don't just whitewash it all. They don't just ignore the things that are difficult to tackle. That they don't let the GOP get away with its lies every single day. And when the Democrats do something bad, I want the journalists to find that out too. I want them to report it. I want them to report everything. And I want them to do it in a thoughtful manner. I want them to not just be stenographers